How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining me.
Oh my gosh, this has been like in the making, it feels like. I like canceled on you I think twice, which was like I feel so awful about that. I'm so sorry. And then just trying to figure out the tech side of it
You
today.
know
So,
what? It's okay. That is life. And I always prepare people like, hey, the tech is going to probably be a headache. So just
yeah.
prepare.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I was just telling everyone that we are talking about rumors and whiskey tonight.
Yay.
And we are going to do our best to remain spoiler free. It
Sure.
has been out in the world for a little bit of time,
Yeah.
but we're still gonna try.
Yep.
Um, and so why don't we just kick right off and you tell
Sure.
us a little bit about you and how we got to this point right here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could start from the very beginning if you wanted, or I could just give you like the Cliff's Notes versions of like how we got here.
Whatever you want us to know is what I want to know.
Sure. I mean, so I still feel so much like a baby author. And I feel like hopefully I feel like that for a long time because then that just like means, I'm forever growing, like that's the hope. But I started publishing in 2022. My first series was a small town romance set in Colorado. One out of those four books had a little bit of suspense in it, and I think that's where I caught the bug. Um, and I just like fell down the rabbit hole of really loving writing romantic suspense, and just having that, I don't know, that additional like plot piece to play with when it came to storytelling. Um, so I did Peaks of Color was my first book, and that was out in 2022. I finished that series at the end, or actually, yeah, the very end of 2023, going into 24. And then in 2024, I published Bourbon and Lies, which is the first book in the Bourbon Boys series. And I remember like finally getting through and hitting like typing the end, and whenever you type the end, it's never the end, right? There's always like so much editing and so many more eyes that see it before it actually hits Kindles or shelves. But I remember when I like finished sort of that last round of proof and thinking this feels different, like this, for some reason something about this book just felt different. And I really wrote it with the hope that, hey, if I want this to break out, like I want this series to do what I'm hoping it'll do, right? I hope I can like attract readers that read the same things and want to read the same things that I like to read. And even if this series hadn't done it, there was just something really special about Bourbon and Lies. And then, like readers kept going. And I wrote that second book. It came out in December of, I probably have my years wrong, but I think it came out in December of 24. And then the series wrapped up in 25. Um, and it was just a great series, that was based on three brothers that ran a bourbon distillery in a place called Fiasco, Kentucky, and how they get to their happily ever afters, sort of intertwined with some sort of life-changing suspense and an impressive woman. So they each have these like really compelling love stories, and at the core of them, while it's a series about brothers, like the women sort of, I think, drive through that series. Like they are the like shining stars, I think. And yeah, and so that brought me to Rumors and Whiskey. I actually re-released the Bourbon Boys with Bloom at the start of 26, which I was really thrilled about. It was just like the stars kind of aligned, and I found myself, saying yes to a publisher that really has done just like a phenomenal job of connecting indie authors with traditional publishing and like what that sort of hybrid model could really look like. And yeah, and we re-released the Bourbon Boys. So hopefully like more people caught the bug, when it came to, reading romantic suspense the way that I write it. And then it felt like the perfect time to release Rumors and Whiskey, which is the first book in the Whiskey Women series. Yay.
Yeah, now we're here.
Yeah, and now we're here. And, there are touch points. While Rumors and Whiskey is an entirely different series, it's based on three sisters living in small town Tennessee. There are touch points to the Bourbon Boys. And especially in book one, there are ways that those stories interconnect. And do you need to read the Bourbon Boys first? No. It's total standalone. Will you maybe enjoy just a smidgen more if you do? Probably. Um, so here we are. Rumors and Whiskey released in June, and I it was that book for me that definitely took a lot. It took a lot. Like I felt like I was in a hangover by the time I handed it in at the beginning of December, and it was just because I like the Bourbon Boys did so well in my mind. They were the books that I wanted to really write, and I was really afraid, I think, of going into a new series and it not feeling the same way. Like you're releasing with a publisher, you want to deliver on what your reader expectations are. And then just like my simple truth of wanting to make this book just a little bit better than the last. And so yeah, so here we are.
Well, where did you get the inspiration for this one? I mean,
Yeah.
Julian is in it, and he is a character in the Bourbon Boys series, as
Mhm.
you mentioned. So, did you always know that he was going to have a story?
Yeah, I always knew that the characters that lead this book were always going to have a story. Um, I just wasn't sure how, and how I would make that happen. And Julian is just this very mysterious character in Bourbon and Proof, right? He has this double life where he is a jeweler by day and then also cleans up crime scenes, but not in a very official capacity. He's not working for the local PD. He's doing it for his quote unquote friend network. So there's just a lot of unanswered questions, I think, if you've read Bourbon and Proof. But even going into this series, you know that the the male main character is going to be, if nothing else, just a little bit morally gray.
Yeah, I do love, I mean, I think that's really what was so exciting about this is he is the character in that other series where you're like, what about this man? I need to
Yeah,
know more about this man. And
totally.
on the other hand, when she's, I think, a fantastic main female character, and she has been through some traumatic things. And one of the things I really love and appreciate about her is that no matter what, she's still able to keep her heart open and
Yeah.
be just available for whatever is next for her. So, why was it important to you that you wrote her that way, that she's so resilient and doesn't stop dreaming, even though she's been through some really horrible things?
Yeah, I really think I wrote the dedication to the book, with my whole chest, which was just this main point that was consistent throughout, which was be brave. And I feel like you can relate to that, right? Regardless of what situation you're currently in or what you've been through, whether it's something massive or something, really a small hurdle for the day. I think if you can just sort of get it together and be brave, you actually can really impress yourself. And I felt like for her, she's just a character um, that sort of went through this whole period of her life where she wanted to be set apart from her family. She wanted to be different than them. She was really, really just book smart. And maybe her less savvy life smarts had gotten her into a really hard predicament. Um, and now she's back trying to not just really heal from that, because she does come back home sort of healed, but I think she's trying to figure out where she can fit in. So it's that concept of being resilient, I think for her wasn't just surviving a trauma. I think for her it's just being able to find her new place afterwards. And I think a lot of times stories talk about the survival of somebody after something happens, but what does real life look like after that, right? What does it look like after you've done the therapy and the work? Like, how can you really live life again? And I just thought, what a great character to be able to do that with, where she isn't going into hiding, she's actually coming out of it, you know?
I love that idea. I mean, I think that, well, I don't want to give anything away, so I'm not going to say
Yeah,
too much, but there, I feel like she has like three specific kind of points in the story, and I really enjoyed kind of getting to see that journey through that lens of, hey, I've done some of the work and now I'm here and what's next. It was
hmm
really just an intriguing point. And then going back to Julian, he has this side business that you've already talked about, and
Yep,
it makes him seem like he could be a really dangerous guy. But as readers get to know him, I think you figure out pretty quickly that he's kind of like a soft, secret little lover
for
boy.
sure, for sure.
So, what was your approach to writing such contrasting dynamics?
Um, so I'll be honest, I didn't seek out to do it, right? Like to me, these characters just felt a certain way, especially with each other. Like I have no doubt in my mind, like you don't want to get into you want Julian Colton on your zombie apocalypse team, right? But he's going to be soft and malleable and yearn for this woman that just kind of shakes him out of a life that he almost doesn't recognize anymore. And I am so soft for any guy that is a little harsh and gray and has maybe like a strange and messed up moral compass and a code of conduct or whatever. But then for like the woman in his life or his partner, he is an entirely different there's an entirely different side that we get to like see, and it just works. Like he felt that way to me. Like he felt like a more of a caretaker character when it came down to it. But he still has like a dirty mouth. He wasn't like a pushover, but like I think he gives Win I think he gives Win permission to sort of step into her own femininity in this, more dominant way where maybe she hasn't been before. And like she works through that. Like she works through, being this like chemistry professor where she has to stand in front of a class. Um, but she's not like the most confident either. She's not this like intense badass person from her lens. I think like as her writer and as like a reader, to me she's a total badass just based on like everything she's been through. But I think like when you really get into her head, she's almost like her self-esteem isn't as high as it should be.
Well, and something kind of interesting about them too is that their family dynamics are totally different. So
Yeah.
Wynn has this really tense relationship with her mother, and she's kind of been, I mean, she's getting closer to her sisters, but she wasn't for a while. And then
Yeah.
Julian was incredibly close to his father. So was that intentional? Did you want to tell those two different stories, and why?
Yeah. Yeah, it was intentional. I mean, the no matter what, kicking off a series about three sisters and their family dynamic was needed to, in my mind, it needed to come from like a place where it wasn't cozy and incredible. And to me, like that's who Wynn's character was. Like she was working through not just like coming back from from having disappeared for years, but like the dynamic that she had with her family before she disappeared with her mom, specifically wasn't the most incredible. And I think you get that. Like you get what kind of character Lou Crown is. Like she's this very like you want to like her, but she's like such a narcissist. And like there's just something about her like you love to hate a little bit. And I think seeing those two sort of family relationships was just a great way to show how those two characters are actually very different, like how they grew up so differently. Um,
Yeah, I felt like that was just so interesting, and it's entertaining to watch how it makes each of them approach a relationship like romantically. So
Hmm.
I loved that contrast and just watching it play out on the page.
Well, thank you.
With the Crown women in mind, I feel like by the time we get through this book, I mean, when it takes her a little while to get there, but as a whole, they are larger than life, very unapologetic about who they are, and just unashamed, being loud and out there, and just
Yeah.
they own who they are. And I want to know why it was important to you to write that type of character.
Oh gosh. I think, I don't know, there's just something about the FMC in stories where I want to, like, equal parts, want to be friends with them, like, and also have a crush on them. You know, I want to, I want to know these people outside of this book. Like, that's how I want to feel about them. When it came to the family, honestly, I think, you know, without without giving away any spoilers, you needed to like them. You needed, like, as the reader, you needed to like build an intense love for each, like, for not just each of them, but really as a whole, in order to get to the end and be okay with it. Um, you know, so like, I think for me it was really important because there's like exceptions to why the climax of this story, it will hit you hard. It's going to do it because you've hopefully really fallen in love with all of the Crown women as the story's moved on. So I think it's important for me to, I don't know, I think it's important for me to write strong women. I like have surrounded myself with strong women. I feel like, you know, the romance reader community is a collective of really strong women. So like, why wouldn't why wouldn't I write characters that maybe not only, you know, we see ourselves in, or like touch points to, but then people that we also just want to know. You know, I just want to, if I want to read a book, I want to like, I want to feel good about at least one of those characters by the time I'm done, you know?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And then one of the unique traits in their family is, they delve in tarot and
Hmm.
palm reading and tea leaves. So, how much research into those topics did you have to do?
I mean, I feel like I'm like a constant research junkie when it comes to, you know, anything with a little bit of a, I don't know how to even describe it. Like, you say witchy vibe, but it's almost like there's a negative connotation to that, right? So like, I think, I don't know, I'm so intrigued by, I love the concept of tarot. I love the concept of palmistry. And to me, and like star charts and astrology and, you know, birth signs. And you know, you know, some people might say, oh, well, that's really like just so woo woo of you. But truly, there's like some, you know, there's ways to look at it in a scientific, you know, from a scientific perspective. And I just thought, you know, if you're going to look at a matriarch of a family that's going to have, you know, these elements, this sort of like practical magic auntie's vibe to it, you know, what would each of these sisters really connect with? And to me, for Win, especially, I thought palmistry would be something that she could connect with because there was a standard, there was an always thing, right? There's this idea that everyone has lines in their hands, and how you interpret them is the part that's up for grabs. But it's not as like such a bold departure as maybe tarot cards are. So for me, like, Win seemed like, okay, I think she could logically get behind palmistry. Whereas like youngest sister Jo just like loves tarot because her grandmother does, you know? And like Stevie is really into star charts and birth signs, and like feels like she has like answers to everybody's personalities and quirks because of them. And I just think there's just something, I don't know, I love that, those elements. I love those things. So what kind of research? I mean, like, lifelong. I mean, I feel like it started, like, this is probably totally dating me about how old I am, but like once upon a time, like, you could dial, like, when there was like phone books, there was numbers you could dial and like listen to your horoscope and, you know, things like that. And like, I just think I loved that for forever. I wish I was like part of a family that like dug into tarot reading um and that, but it just wasn't. It was kind of more of an adult like figure out as I sort of became an adult. So
Well, I
Yeah.
love that parallel to Practical Magic. That's exactly what I thought of too.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's just something, I mean, it's at this point like a cult classic, right? And like Practical Magic 2 is out in October, I think, which I'm like dying for. But like my sisters, I'm like one of three. So my sisters and I, we go to this like little farm in Connecticut and we watch Practical Magic outside, and they, you know, they have like witch hats and sage burning, and it's like a whole thing. You know, like I feel like if you're gonna romanticize life, just, you know, romanticize it. Do all the things. Um but yeah, like the practical magic vibes, I think there is something so specific you can almost picture in your mind when you can connect to an old cult like movie like that, right? You know, like the vibes of the big gorgeous house, or you know, okay, fall vibes. So these colors, these like very moody vintage moments, or even just sort of like that sister connection. Um, and yeah, I just, the mom and grandmother in Whiskey Women very much felt like the two aunties in Practical Magic to me. At least while I was writing them, that's kind of how I pictured how they played off one another.
No, I love that so much. But I mean, pivoting just a little bit,
Yep.
this definitely has some very heavy, dark
Mm,
content.
sure.
How do you weave that kind of stuff while keeping, being sensitive, keeping those topics in
Mm.
mind, but then keeping it hopeful and like having an HEA that people can believe in? Like, where do you learn to do that? How do you manage to do it? Is it just, thank goodness it comes to me? Like, what are we
Um,
doing?
no, I don't, you know, I don't know. How do you, how, like the details on how to write a romantic suspense with dark elements, I have no idea. And I think like that's sort of like the chaotic process of where I start to hyperventilate in the editorial, you know, side of things, where it's like, oh, cool, none of this makes sense, nor does it connect, and I need it to. Truthfully, I do a ton of editing. You know, my first draft is nothing like my final draft. My first draft is just getting it all down. And then I work with a ton of people. I have a handful of beta readers. I have an editor who is fantastic. My PA who, you know, reads for me often. Um, and it's a process, you know, like I am not a quick book turnaround person within reason. Like there are some authors that really can like draft and put out a book within just a, you know, a few short months. I definitely am finding I need a little more time because there are elements to these stories where um you know, the dark elements I think need to like carry throughout, right? So like I'm always hoping that the suspense elements start from the very beginning and you can like find a touch point to them all the way through, the same way that at the core of it it's a romance, you know. So that romantic story is the story I'm trying to tell, but what are these external things that are either going to keep my main characters apart, or how are they going to work together? Like sometimes they're working together and that's how they fall in love, to sort of figure out the suspense that's happening throughout. um and I think it's a lot, you know, I think writing is reflective of life. Like sometimes the intensely dark and harsh things that occur, there needs to be some like levity to it too. So there's, you know, your characters, I think in most authors who can write like successful books where they aren't just focused on the dark elements. I think that there needs to be a level of, you know, comedic relief in, you know, either one or two characters. And so yeah, how do I do it? Great question. I don't know, because every time I start a new book I'm like, can I do this? Can we do this? um
Well, we're glad that you do. And with that in mind, what was the most rewarding part of writing Win and Julian's love story?
oh I think without giving spoilers, I think it is, what felt really rewarding was being able to really connect the ending the way that it did. Um, there are, I think, two connection points that happen towards like the 75% and then almost the like 90% mark of the story. And both of those end up being a place where things resolve for at least one, if not both main characters. And I think writing those just felt really good. Like it felt really good to be able to like finish out their story. You know, and to feel like I was giving my character, my readers, Easter eggs back to Bourbon Boys. I think it was really like, I don't know, it was just a really fulfilling book to finish. And I think also just from the point of like, can I do this? Like, can I write another book where I'm going to make my current readers happy and then maybe also find some new ones as well?
Well, if readers could only take away one thing from this book, what would you want it to be?
Ooh. I mean, I'm hoping you can walk away like loving the spice and romance of it all because at the core of it, like I'm a romance author, you know. But if we need to be if we need to be like a little more you know, specific, I think it's just the concept of being brave, you know, leaning in and being brave. And I think that's that's like something I consistently try to say to myself, right? And I think it can be really hard. It's just like a couple of words, but if you really like lean into them and believe in them, I think a lot like these characters had, then you're, you know, at least you're on the right foot.
Being brave can be hard.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yeah, and you don't have to have gone through some like, you know, serial unaliver trauma like Win has in order to do so. And I think that's if readers walk away with anything, it's like, you know, I hope you just were, if nothing else, entertained. You were able to escape for a little while. You got to go through all the emotions and you know, that at the end of the day, that's like what I want. That's what I want readers to feel. Like I'll feel all the things and enjoy escape life for a little bit and read a good book.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. Well, last question.
Yeah,
What is next for you as an author, and what can we, it's a two-parter, and what can we expect from this series as it goes on?
sure. So I'm currently writing the second book in the series. I'm editing it right now. It's Scandals and Whiskey. That'll come out early next year. That's Joe's book. So Joe is the youngest sister. And you have already met her significant other for the series. I will tell you that it will be, there's like a bunch of micro tropes, and it's, I don't even know if it's a micro, it's actually a trope. It would be like a billionaire, a little bit of a billionaire romance thrown in there. Um, so that's what I'm working on right now. What people can expect from the series, I mean, you're going to get if you enjoyed or are interested in three super strong women that enjoy fighting against the patriarchy, right? That have each other's backs. You really enjoy some really delicious spice. You're going to get more of that. And each sister gets their happily ever after, and it's never what you think. Like the characters you met in book one of, you know, Stevie Crown and Joe Crown, they're never exactly who you think they are because it's not from their point of view. So,
That's so exciting. I
yeah.
cannot wait.
Yay! Thank you
Well,
so
we
much for
won't
reading
rush.
it, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I was just really excited, and I can't wait for the next one. I love the sister, so I'm so intrigued. But I'm not rushing you. I want you to do it
Yes.
however you need to, but I'm ready.
I love it. Yeah, I had to move I had to push my deadline a little bit because I was just, you know, hitting a little bit of burnout, and needed like a minute to make sure that I'm doing Joe's story justice. But yeah, I've been playing in Rumor for a while now and it feels good. Like I was a little worried that I was gonna miss Fiasco so much that I wouldn't be able to turn Rumor into like my next obsession, but we're there. I'm like leaning in.
I love that so much. Well, I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me tonight, and who knows, maybe we can do this again.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for watching.